Welcome to the Willie Bragg Show. I'm your host, Willie Bragg. I'm a little late today. What's new? Yeah, I came back late from dinner, so that's what happened. So, I'm not gonna go into it. That's just it is what it is. I'll try to do better. So, anyway, suffice to say, yeah, what we have a convention going on this week. When I say we, the United States, the Democratic Party is having a convention, and there will be some talk about that convention fairly soon. Promise. So, and I'm going to talk about certain political races around the country as well. So there is that. What I also want to talk about is rehabilitation of George W. Bush. And I mean, I've talked about it to death about how George W. Bush and Liz Cheney has been rehabilitated over the years, and not just them, but there's been a few others, and then there's been a few others from the conservative movement that were bordering on being rehabilitated, but somehow it didn't come into being. Like, for example, Glenn Beck was bordering on rehabilitation because he was never Trump in 2016, for example. So, giving you that as an example right there. So, Donald Trump broke the brain of many people from all sides. Motherfucker, he is. So, I want y'all to take a look at this photo here because, I have said that normalizing George W. Bush will make the country further right wing, and it has. It has. I mean, I was trying to find the tweet from Ron Placone from last week. I think it was last week. He talked about this, and I replied to him saying basically that normalizing George W. Bush, and look how they look at the disdain that the liberal shit libs have toward whatever we may think of Bernie Sanders. Our critique of Bernie Sanders is legitimate. The shit lib critique and the mainstream Democrat critique, those who hate the Bernie Sanders from Bernie Sanders' right, their critique is illegitimate. And so they hate Bernie Sanders and they hate Ralph Nader more than they hate George W. Bush. Jimmy Dore did say in 2018 that the liberals hated Ralph Nader because he supposedly gave us George W. Bush. Now that the liberals love George W. Bush, they still hate Ralph Nader. This is where we're at. I mean, all you have to do is to look at healthcare system. When Barack Obama got elected in 2008, did he go to Bernie Sanders' plan for healthcare? No, he went to Mitt Romney's healthcare plan. He went to a Heritage Foundation healthcare plan instead of Physicians for a National Health Program, which called for the establishment of a single-payer Medicare for all system. I mean, I'm giving you that as an example. And what the Democrats do, when Republicans sit there and accuse Democrats of shifting the country further left, what I see from the Democrats is the Democrats carrying on Republican parties party policies at 55 miles an hour versus the Republicans at 300 miles per hour. You go and you crash a car into a brick wall at 300 miles an hour. I mean, that's fucked up. Crashing your car against a brick wall at 55 miles an hour is still fucked up. So that's the difference between the Democrats and Republicans. Republicans take a car and they drive it against a brick wall at 300 miles an hour. The Democrats takes a car and drive it against a brick wall at 55 miles an hour. Same difference. And that is the difference. And I challenge anybody from both parties to tell me otherwise. I challenge them. I do. So, you see, this is what's wrong right here, so what I want to do right now, I'm going to share a tweet from earlier today, because this kind of go into a little bit what I'm talking about. I found a tweet that just annoyed the bejesus out of me, so I got into it with this person here, and as I normally do. This person said here, Bernie Bros in 2016, I'm voting for Jill Stein because the election was stolen for Bernie, quote unquote. Bernie Bros today, I'm outraged that reproductive rights are being stripped away from women. And so this is response to a tweet from Hillary Clinton, where she said Trump's abortion ban did this, and so my response was, Bernie Bros had nothing to do with reproductive rights being gone. Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden had an opportunity to codify Roe versus Wade into federal law, but did not do it, and they won't. And I'll go into why in just a moment, and go into why the Republicans were pissed off when Roe versus Wade was overturned. They really were not happy about it, I promise you. He responded, Bernie Bros had a chance to vote for the Democratic nominee in 2016 and didn't because they're sore losers. And I replied to this motherfucker. I replied and said, in my eloquent way, in my very empathetic way, I said, shut up. The Clintons Reaganized the Democratic Party in the 1990s. Instead of going away in 2001, Bill Clinton's hideous wife, Hillary Clinton, became a senator to vote for George W. Bush's Iraq War, invented the birther conspiracy theory against Barack Obama. And that's the truth. The right wing who used the birther conspiracy against Obama are too dumb to realize that it was Hillary Clinton and Sidney Blumenthal, ironically Max Blumenthal's father, that created that birther conspiracy theory. Anyway, the birther conspiracy against Barack Obama, destroy Libya as Secretary of State, cheated Bernie Sanders in 2016 out of his rightful place as the nominee, convinced Donald Trump to run in the 2016 election, and smeared Jill Stein, Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard as Russian assets. And you expect me to like her and support her? If I go on, I could be sent to Twitter jail for what I want to say, and you and others like myself. So, like yourself, rather. So, and I said, let me also add that many of y'all went out of your way to rehabilitate George W. Bush, our worst and most right-wing president of our lifetime, with Michelle Obama hugging him. Of course, at the same time, many of these same people held a grudge against Ralph Nader for supposedly giving us the Texan goofball for 8 years. None of y'all realize how right-wing you are because you think more of George W. Bush and Liz Cheney while holding disdain and hatred for Bernie Sanders and Ralph Nader. And of course, he had nothing to say about it. I guess he just thought I wasn't worth it, what have you. As far as I'm concerned, I owned his ass. So that's what it comes right down to. So I just have to go and get that out of my system. But to further illustrate this, when Donald Trump was, when he was in court a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, during the arraignment, due dissidents co-host Russell Dobler decided to go and have some fun with some of the liberals and with regard to George W. Bush. So I'm going to play a little snippet of this. It's one of my favorite due dissident sketches videos. So we'll go ahead and play it. I'm not going to play it all the way through. Just going to play it here, just a little snippet, just to make a point. So I'll let them take it away.
The courthouse here in Lower Manhattan to take in the scenery at the Donald Trump arraignment. So you take it away, and we got some video we're going to play.
Okay, so I went down there, and they basically separated the MAGA people from the lock 'em up people. So it was pretty peaceful. It wasn't anything crazy. But I was very curious what would happen if I asked people if they thought George Bush should be arrested, of people of all political stripes. And what I found very quickly, I can't say to my surprise, although the vehemence I got was surprising. The libs went crazy when I asked that question. They went completely batshit. And when I asked conservatives, when I asked pro-Trump people that question, it ranged from yes to no, and I'm going to talk to you about why. Nobody went crazy.
Once again, this is, should George Bush be prosecuted next? Right.
Right. Should George Bush be prosecuted?
Now I will say this. A little bit later on, just recently, Russell Douglas did slightly backtrack or did a slight retraction of what he said about Trump supporters, because a lot of them were taking a shit on Joe Rogan for supporting Robert F. Kennedy. And so he did a slight little retraction on what he thought was trying to be charitable toward trying to act like a good faith actor. So I may be speaking on his behalf, but that's how I'm interpreting that. But that's how I was interpreting that when he mentioned that when Robert Kennedy decided to endorse, when Joe Rogan decided to endorse Robert Kennedy.
I think this video, and I'll have a lot to say about it as we go, it demonstrates everything that we've said on this show over the years. It demonstrates everything that this show has been about. We cannot work with these people. We need to distance ourselves from these people. We need to scream from the rooftops. They're not with us. We didn't come to the party with them. They're not with us. They're not with us. So, and you'll see why as we go. So do you think he'll be found guilty?
If justice is served, he sure will be, for this and all the other crimes that he's accused of.
So do you think we should arrest George Bush next?
Why? What is about this? What's this whataboutism? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, but should we? I mean, if we're going to hold people accountable.
You know better than that?
You don't think we should?
I'm not going to be baited by you. I don't care what you think.
Okay, so you don't think we should arrest George Bush for war crimes?
What's to arrest George W. Bush?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. What do you think? Do you feel that he should be arrested?
If a grand jury of average New Yorkers indicts him, then he should be arrested.
Exactly.
Well, Michelle Obama called her partner in crime.
Oh, you're going after a black woman now, of course, because that's clearly a white supremacist.
So do you think that's why?
So you have to demonize the black woman, try to get appointed by.
So if you criticize Candace Owens, you're a white supremacist?
In your audience.
What if you criticize Candace Owens?
Is universally respected, whereas Candace Owens is a pathetic minister.
Right. What if you what? This is what happens. Ask these people questions. They cannot answer. Well, this is a public place. I can do whatever I want.
I'm just going to ask you to take a step back.
Well, you have no right to do that.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
You're in my space, and I'm going to ask
You're in my space. I'm not in your space.
Get out of our space.
I asked if we should arrest George Bush. They went crazy. I guess they like George Bush.
All right, let me just pause for a second. You realize how just like non-hostile the question was, and immediately,
They
immediately
went berserk.
Nuts. Yeah,
they went berserk. Like
you didn't ask
berserk.
It's not like you had a MAGA hat on and you were there to troll them, or that you posed the question in a trolling way,
or even that I asked, should they arrest Obama? Like you still shouldn't act like a demented 3-year-old, but you could. That's baiting, right? Like clearly they're liberal people, Democrats, right? It should be so easy. Yes,
Right. That's
Of course. Instead, they qualify it. Well, if a grand jury finds him and then he's George Bush, just say yes.
Right.
Just
We
say
don't
yes.
know
It's
anything.
that simple.
We don't know anything. So we'll defer to a grand jury because we know absolutely nothing of what we're talking about. We have no real reason why we're here.
That's what they kept coming back to. Well, if a grand jury indicts him, they could not simply say, yes, George Bush is guilty of war crimes and he should be arrested. And yet they felt passionately enough about Donald Trump getting arrested for payoffs to a porn star that it dragged a banner down to the courthouse, and they're standing out there ringing cowbells like an idiot over that. But you ask them, well, should George Bush be arrested? Well, he danced with Ellen, so no.
Right, exactly.
Michelle Obama likes him, so no. And if you mention Michelle Obama, you're a white supremacist. Are you guys Republicans? Are you Republicans? Like, why do you not want to arrest George Bush?
And I'm gonna say something about that. And I mean, not trying to generalize here. Judging by the banner, this is probably an LGBTQ crowd, and that really just boggles my mind because George W. Bush was much harsher toward LGBTQ than Donald Trump. Donald Trump don't give a fuck about the issue. I'm not saying he's passionately all affirmative and all rainbows and unicorns about LGBTQ people, but honestly, we know that Donald Trump is more liberal on the LGBTQ matters than George W. Bush and Liz Cheney. And yet, there's more tolerance toward George W. Bush than there is for Donald Trump in that regard. This is not a sneaky way to say, hey, Donald Trump is all right. There are many issues about Donald Trump that leads to be desired. He's a fucking billionaire. I am a class reductionist in a lot of ways. I'm also a civil libertarian in many other respects, and I support LGBTQ rights, and I am fundamentally anti-racist, and I am, I'm on the social issues. I am pretty much down the line with all the progressives. But I mean, I am probably, if you accuse me of being a class reductionist, is probably pretty damn close to accurate because everybody's got an angle or a favorite pet project or angle to their politics. It doesn't make them bad. And I'm not saying that if this is your lane, if feminism is your lane, go for it. If that's where you stand, or if LGBTQ is where you're at, that go for that. Or if environmentalism is your concern, go for that. But everything is still interconnected, and so are working class issues, by the way. And but do it in a way which again where it's cogent, consistent, and not silly or off-putting to the broader public. We're trying to build a movement and trying to build a good society, and so that's what we're trying to do. And to me, arresting George W. Bush would be at a bare minimum a way to start having a good society. Ronald Reagan and all the people, well, Reagan's dead, but there's a lot of people alive for the Reagan era. They're still walking around free that they committed war crimes too. And nobody's calling for their arrest or anything like that. I remember Ron Contra. I remember that very well in the 1980s. I haven't forgotten. And the thing about it, I mean, you compare someone like Scott Ritter that the U.S. government's harassing to someone like Colonel Oliver North, who is a war criminal that Ronald Reagan called a national hero. No, Oliver North is a piece of shit. Scott Ritter is a national hero. Oliver North is a piece of shit. So, But people's priorities in this country is pretty damn screwed up. So there we have it. So as I said, so that's one of my favorite sketches from Due Dissidence, and pretty much telling the truth about George W. Bush, and it lasts about 20 minutes. I'm not going to go play that whole thing for 20 minutes and all of that. So another one that I think is good to watch is this one here, and I have to go back in time for this one a little bit. When he was not Eminem, when Kyle Kalinske was good, and he,
as part of their campaign against Trump.
To his credit, even now, to his credit, he still calls George W. Bush one of the worst presidents around, and whereas a lot of the MSNBC people and David Pakman and all these other folks and Sam Cedar and I guess maybe I'm not sure where the Young Turks stand between Bush and Trump, but the thing about it is, I mean, he knows that George W. Bush was a terrible president, and this is a short clip of we're going to say a better Kyle Kalinske, even though he may still feel this way today. But we know this is when he was really in his better prime. But anyway, just listen to what he has to say here.
As part of their campaign against Trump, corporate Democrats and partisan Democrats used what I think is the worst tactic possible and the worst argument imaginable. Because what they did is they portrayed Trump as uniquely bad and evil and other Republicans as now reasonable because, hey, they're not Trump. Well, now this strategy has reached its comical but logical conclusion. Look at what happened on The View just the other day.
Even the former president, George W. Bush, is breaking his silence about the current administration, saying he doesn't like the racism and the name calling that's going on, and that the media is indispensable for democracy. He took a whole...
Yeah, and there's been a lot of racism and all of that went on with a lot of Republicans long before Donald Trump came along here. There's nothing particularly unique about any dog whistles Trump ever had. It made him just another Republican. Honestly, I mean, I all my life, I have seen Republican as riddled with racism. What planet is Whoopi Goldberg living on?
Whole bunch of hits. Nixon took hits. Nixon had such a humorous thing about himself that he went on laughing, which was an entertainment show back in the day. Don, get a sense of humor, dude. If you're going to do this job, you better learn to laugh.
But it's been... Actually, you started with George Bush, right? Yeah. The thing about this is that Donald has now done something I thought he would never do. I like him. I like the fact that I like George Bush now, is what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, you're a dumbass, Joy Behar.
I'm having trouble saying it.
You actually like W.
I mean, I was after this guy for 8 years. Yeah. And now he has done something. He's made me like George Bush. I might even buy one of his paintings.
Well, remember,
I love George Bush.
that he was the only Republican during his administration that stood up against him and said, we don't need a wall, we need a better program. And the Republicans gave him such hell about that he had to say, okay, fine, go build the wall. They never did. But, I don't mind a president that you disagree with. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, it's just a disagreement. A war criminal who invaded a country that didn't attack us, occupied it, and killed minimum hundreds of thousands of civilians, set up a worldwide torture regime, set up NSA spying, which is a brazen, disgusting, overt violation of the Constitution and your protection from unreasonable search and seizure. That's causing the Great Recession and collapsing the economy. Well, it's just disagreement. It's just a disagreement when somebody invades a country that didn't attack us and occupies it and kills hundreds of thousands of civilians and tortures people. It's just a disagreement. It's not a big deal. Okay, what you're witnessing here is a victory for the right.
You know, this is when Kyle wasn't being, controlled by Crystal. You could tell. But anyway.
Because here's what happened. There's this thing called the Overton window, which is, to sum it up quickly, it's the spectrum that is viewed as the parameters of a legitimate, respectable debate and discussion politically. So in the United States, we already have an Overton window that's very far to the right on the political spectrum. The furthest left you can go is a guy like Bernie Sanders, who internationally, when you look at other modern nations, he's a moderate. They don't even view him as a leftist. Now, with something like this, you've just shifted the Overton window so far to the right that we're in Genghis Khan territory. We're in Attila the Hun territory. We're in fucking Mussolini territory. When you have now completely and utterly normalized and in fact agreed with, and now you're saying you like a war criminal because at least the war criminal isn't Trump. So,
and exactly, because look, a lot of these progressives were against the war when George W. Bush was president, and then Barack Obama became president. All the anti-war protests, the streets were cleared. They were cleared. And all of that, and you would have thought that when Trump started bombing Syria, you'd have thought that would have just brought it back in. But I think it was Brian Williams on MSNBC said that he talked about those beautiful bombs being blowing up in Syria, and saying that Donald Trump is a true leader or what have you. I mean, it's like, what the fuck is going on here? So when Donald Trump ends up doing really fucked up right-wing things, the liberals kind of end up supporting it. I'll give you an example. You have Nancy Pelosi, you had Chuck Schumer. They put on this dog and pony show what an asshole Donald Trump is. They go and vote for the tax cuts. They go and vote for his judges, and vote for the military budget, and actually give him more power than he should have if he's supposedly a Russian asset. But they virtually say no and say no, he's a fucking asshole in public, and that's what's happened. So this is a good example. Kyle's correct about how the country just got further to the right with this kind of nonsensical thinking.
So this strategy of painting Trump as this uniquely bad Republican, and oh my God, this means all the other Republicans are reasonable. Look at the result. Now, hey, war criminals, just a disagreement. Massacring civilians, just a disagreement. Torture, just a disagreement. Crashing the economy through deregulation and shitty policies, it's just a disagreement. No big deal. No, but it is a big deal. He should be rotting in a prison cell right now, George W. Bush should, if there's justice. Dick Cheney, same thing with him. Now, Donald Trump, we're getting there. I mean, he said we have to take out their families. We have to take out their families. We should kill civilians on purpose. And then in his first military raid, he killed 30 civilians, including an 8-year-old girl. And then, acts like, oh, nothing went wrong. It was a tremendously successful raid, believe me. So he's hard. I got no love for Donald Trump by any stretch of the imagination. But I also have no love for George W. Bush. In order to try to portray Trump as the worst of all worlds, they've now rehabilitated George W. Bush's image, which is a fucking crime, man. Don't do that. Don't do that. They took the bait. Now every other Republican, how many Democrats are now cheering Lindsey Graham and John McCain because Lindsey Graham and John McCain want to use hawkish rhetoric against Russia and escalate to World War III. And they want to be more standoffish with them and use more Cold War rhetoric. Democrats hated that shit under Obama early on when Obama was trying to be more peaceful with Russia. But now that Trump, there's questions, the connections between the Trump administration and Russia, and oh my God, maybe we won't go to World War III. Now Democrats are cheering on Lindsey Graham and John McCain, who are making the same hawkish arguments that they've always made. So now war's good because maybe Trump, because of questionable connections with Russia, maybe we won't escalate now. Well, now I want to escalate. It's so stupid. It's so mindless. And the actual term for it, the accurate term for it is reactionary.
Absolutely, and that's the mindset that just keeps taking place. I mean, the INF Treaty. I had no love for Ronald Reagan, but it was a wonderful thing when Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev decided to start ending the Cold War. and they did the INF treaty, which basically had those missiles stop aiming at each other. Oh, because Trump was such a Russian asset, according to these pink pussy hat wearing shit lib morons. Trump wanted to prove he wasn't pro-Russia. He had those fucking rockets aimed at Russia again, and the Russians started aiming those rockets toward the United States. And you see the situation with the Ukraine and Russia situation. So, and with this particular escalation that's going on between Russia and Ukraine and all this shit that's going on, I have to blame the liberals on this one. On this one, it's the normie liberals' fault on this one, and it could end up in a world war. We're definitely in a Cold War right now because of it. So because of the Trump derangement syndrome that is existing, and I hate to use that term over and over because it sounds like I'm defending Trump, and I'm not, because I would never vote for Trump in a million years. There's nothing that Trump says that appeals to me. He's a fucking billionaire. Billionaires don't appeal to me. I don't think that I don't think there should be such a thing as a billionaire. Not such a thing as a billionaire at all. So there is that. Let's go to Jimmy Dore. This is also an older one from Jimmy Dore. And Jimmy Dore talks about a similar situation. So we'll get his perspective as well. This is old school Jimmy Dore as well. So here we go.
Hey everybody, welcome to Jimmy Dore Show. I'm here with Ron Placone, who's on tour in Florida in January, right?
Yep, I'll be in Florida in January. Other dates been announced. RonPlacone.com for all those tickets.
You remember this moment, right, where George W. Bush passes a piece of candy to Michelle Obama at John McCain's funeral? Oh, look at that. And everybody went nuts. Everybody's like, it's so heartwarming. Look, he gave her a piece of candy. Oh, it's a nice. And then Michelle Obama went on to say, we're partners in crime, war crimes. And is that funny? And so this kind of stuff makes me sick. I don't know why it makes me extra sick, because it's so stupid.
But they just eat candy like you and me.
Yeah. Oh,
they're people. They just, I could buy candy too.
I'm sure. Look, George Bush is saying, I ignored everybody in New Orleans after Katrina, and you ignored Flint. So here's a piece of candy. That's what I think about when I see stuff like that. I think about all the horrible stuff they did and the stuff they should have did that they didn't. Like fix the Flint water. I think about that. Or maybe help people after a hurricane in New Orleans. I think about that. That's without the war crimes that they both committed.
You don't think about how you just want to have a beer with everybody there?
No.
Wow, you're different.
So here's the next one. So here's at George Herbert Walker's Bush for the funeral of another literal war criminal who lied us into a war. I know a lot of people don't know that, but he lied us into the first Gulf War. And there's been a lot of people rewriting history in their eulogies of George Herbert Walker Bush. Like there was a good and bad, but it was mostly bad. He was horrible. He was a freaking war criminal who used race baiting to get elected. So here's the latest funeral, and here he is. He's going to lean in. Watch, he leans in, and here he is, and he gives a piece of candy. Gives a piece of candy. Isn't that nice? The people are going crazy. Look, there it is. There's the candy. Oh, it's like a regular thing for them now where they exchange candy. Oh, here comes candy. I'm going to show it one more time. Here comes candy. Wait a minute. He switches hands now. Oh, what he does like a true magician. He gets you to look at the other hand.
Like a true David Copperfield.
Oh! David Copperfield. That's what George Herbert Walker Bush would say before he would molest people. Or I would say grope. Molest is when it happens to a kid. He did do it one 16-year-old girl. He did put his hand up her skirt and grab her. And then, of course, In Style magazine tweets out Michelle Obama and her partner in crime, George W. Bush, recreate their viral candy exchange today in a sweet moment before her father's funeral. Woo. But George W. Bush passed the candy to the Obamas so graciously, it's like they were tax cuts. Come on. Come on. He dropped that. George W. dropped that candy so casually you'd think it was a drone. Am I right? Come on. Come on. Am I right? Yes. You know, every time Michelle gets a cough drop, a Middle East country gets a drone. True story. So there it is. And they tweeted out, look at war criminal, wife of a war criminal. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? Here's what Aaron Mate says. I'd bet anything that a PR consultant urged Bush to do this again. Mr. Bush, we got huge numbers off that McCain candy. Let's do it again at your father's funeral.
You know, it just gives people a nice, heartwarming moment to hold on to them as they prepare to avoid their families this holiday season.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you, if Kamala Harris wins this election, and Tom Cotton becomes president in the year 2028, the thumbnail where you see Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Donald Trump hugging each other, the way you see Michelle Obama and Bush hugging each other will probably take place. I mark my words. If it's not Tom Cotton, it'll be Ron DeSantis. Because if Donald Trump loses this election, I doubt that he will be running in 2028. Hopefully, he won't be running in 2028 if that happens. Though, anyway.
And you know what I like about it too? I like that they're both of them are putting the fun back in funeral. Right? They're putting the fun back in funeral. That's what I like. It's really a funeral.
That's right.
Here's what Ben Norton says. He goes right at him. He goes, hugging a war criminal who has the blood of 1 million Iraqis on his hands and who set an entire region of the world on fire is such a cute, sweet moment, isn't it? Ben Norton. Geez, people say I'm caustic.
And that's for the jugular. That one.
Ben Norton did a commentary, and I think it was in 2018, of the Bush family. That was very accurate and very actually managed to make me hate the Bush family even more. It was mostly things I knew about the Bush family, but there were things in there that I didn't quite know. And man, you have to hear it.
One right for the jugular.
You know what people? Then he goes, and then here's someone else who comes. You think this is caustic? Okay, hold on. This is going to ruin. I hope you're not eating or anything. So be prepared. I'm giving you a trigger warning. No kidding. Here comes. This guy says, here's another cute Bush moment. In the Iraq War, the United States military used depleted uranium rounds meant for armor over civilian areas, giving rise to a host of birth defects and deformities. The candy story is good, though. There's a picture of a deformed baby born because of depleted uranium.
Yeah, Congressman Jim McDermott up in Seattle really summed up what depleted uranium really did over there. When they have a child, they don't ask, is it a boy or a girl? They ask, is it normal?
Really?
Because of how many birth defects because of depleted uranium, yeah.
Well, it was really, we had no other choice. We're just testing stuff out. That just like with the first atomic bomb, the second atomic bomb, we're just testing it out. Japan was ready to surrender. They were looking for a way to surrender. MacArthur said it was gross that we shouldn't do it. Lots of generals said we shouldn't do it. They did it anyway because they wanted to make sure it worked. We got to make sure these atomic bombs work. We got to drop them on some people. This is just, now they're using depleted uranium. I took the picture off because it's too heartbreaking. But that's what I think about. I think about when I see that bullshit, when I see this stuff, that's what I think about. I think about babies born deformed. And then the oligarchs sitting there passing each other candy at the death of another war criminal. We're a sick society. I hate to tell you that. I know people are brought up in the United States thinking we always are the good guys doing good things. We're the biggest monsters around right now. And by the way, we have been for a while. That's why it's always funny when they go, oh, Hassan's a butcher, or Gaddafi's got to go, or Saddam is horrible, or by the way, so we're in bed with these guys half the time anyway. or more, like Saudi Arabia. And we were buddy with Saddam. We had no problem when he was gassing people. We were his friend. We sold him the gas. So so again, these funerals really turn my stomach. And there's to pretend that you're supposed to have manners when a literal and actual war criminal dies is not a thing. That's just pretend bullshit. That's like if you don't go to church on Sunday, you're going to go to hell forever. It's just one of those things they make up. It's not real. There's no such thing as manners when it comes to war criminals. Our next live Jimmy Dore show is February 1st in Burbank, California.
Yeah, that's old school Jimmy Dore right there. And you know, as I said, I remember when that came out several years ago. And you know, as I said, I pretty much am in agreement with the sentiment there in that video when George Herbert Walker Bush died, because you know, as I said, you know, it's not just George W. Bush that I have disdain for. I remember voting against the original George Bush in 1988, my very first presidential vote. Of course, I thought that Michael Dukakis was going to be a wonderful president, but looking back, you know, he probably wouldn't have been. So there is that. Of course, we'll never know. But more than likely, you know, he would have been, you know, a sorry president like anybody else. But I'm still not, in hindsight, still not sorry. I voted for Michael Dukakis, who was my first vote, because, you know, George Herbert Walker Bush was that horrible, because he was pretty much an extension. The regular presidency. I am so sorry. I'm just a little out of it right now. So, anyway, I'm going to show you one more video, and it's not about George W. Bush, but it's kind of related to George W. Bush, and y'all probably seen it before. In fact, I'm sure y'all seen it before. Is hold on, hold tight. You'll see it in just a second here. You'll see it. You'll see it in just a second. Hold on. Oh my goodness. I'll get it for you in just a moment. Oh no. No, don't do that. Okay. Give me a moment here. Why is it? Oh my goodness. Give me a second here. Give me a moment. Where the hell's that coming from? Okay, I don't know what happened. It was a weird thing just happened just now, but I'm correcting it. I'm so sorry. Sometimes I'm all thumbs. I was trying to get a video up. I don't know if you actually heard it. With the StreamYards, it kind of operates weirdly, so I apologize. So we're gonna go and get this thing straightened out in a moment. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. Okay, I'm sorry about that, folks. So we're gonna straighten this out. All right. Okay, that should do the trick. Here we go. As soon as I can. Oh my goodness. Give me a second. All right, here we go. Well, in a second, here we go.
Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman. In your satin tights, fighting for your rights, and the old red, white, and blue.
If the Democrats prevail, we will not have an economic recovery. You and I know the damage Barack Obama has done to our beloved state and nation. In Congress, I'll lead the fight to reverse President Obama's devastating policies. Bernie Sanders, AOC, Joe Biden, they are advocating the quicksand of socialism. They will absolutely sink and devastate this nation. Representative Omar embodies a vile, hate-filled, anti-Semitic, anti-Israel bigotry.
I am strongly pro-life and I am not pro-gay marriage, said Cheney Friday.
I do believe in the traditional definition of marriage.
And I think that, the North Koreans and others around the world have seen that President Trump is somebody who's going to do what he says he's going to do, and he's going to keep his word.
I will do everything I can to ensure that the former president never again gets anywhere near the Oval Office.
Wonder Woman. You're a Wonder Woman.
Waterboarding is not torture.
Okay. That was Turncoat Don, who always do these funny video clips. Hardly ever disappointed with anything that he comes up with. So yeah, and basically what he likes to do is likes to go make fun of the hypocrisy of a lot of these shit libs out there, like the rehabilitation of Liz Cheney, for example, who again is further right wing than Trump. And that's basically it. It's like, one of my friends who he's been on, I won't mention the name, but he's been on the show as a guest before, told me, he's living in Wyoming, told me one time that the Republican Congresswoman, I believe, that replaced Liz Cheney is a Trump loyalist and is more moderate in her voting record than Liz Cheney is politically. But the problem is that she's pro-Trump. Okay. I think that the fact that Liz Cheney's voting record was obscenely right-wing is the problem. While it is a problem that the Congresswoman that replaced her is pro-Trump, what the ideology that Liz Cheney embraces is more toxic to the discourse than this woman might very well be if she's voting overall to the left of Liz Cheney. Not that I listen too much to Mike from PA, who he hasn't done a show in a while. He's kind of a shit lib. He's done work with Sam Cedar. But I do agree with what he said, that Liz Cheney voted with Donald Trump and is a member of Congress 93% of the time. And he said that he thinks that the 7% of the time that she voted against Trump was probably 7% of the time where Trump was probably more liberal on that issue than she was. And that's what we're dealing with here in that regard. And and like Kyle Kalinske said, old school Kyle Kalinske said, just to make it clear, that the Overton window is so far to the right that this is where we're at right now. And it's actually, all this is just making us further right wing. I mean, look in 2020 how they welcome in the Lincoln Project Republicans, you know, and then those were the neocons who didn't hate the gays, and it's great that it's great that you run across people like that. They should go and try to make the Republican Party more moderate, not come to the Democratic Party and shift the Democrats to the right, which is exactly what's happened. So, and that's where I stand. So anyway, if you like what you heard, please press like and comment any way you disagree with what I have to say. Feel free to share content on this channel. As the First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we're the muckrakers of our time. Subscribe to the Willie Brack Show on YouTube and Twitch and all the other platforms I'm on, and reject corporate media. And be sure to watch Braglands every Tuesday at 5 p.m. We are back. I wanted to go make that as a reminder. And I will try to do a live stream. You may see a surprise live stream between now and next Monday. I'm on vacation this week, so be prepared for a live stream at any moment. So you just never know with me this week. Until next time, remember to free and pardon Ed Snowden. Fully pardon Julian Assange. Free Palestine, free healthcare for all, and free speech for all. Take care. Y'all have a good night.